Entrepreneur MBA podcast purpose is to help existing business owners grow their companies past the $10 million in revenue per year benchmark. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik, and I'm co-founder of Financing Solutions. Financing Solution provides easy to set up lines of credit for small businesses. And I will be your host for today. Over the last 25 years, I've built 6 companies in the $5 million to $25 million range. 2 of those companies have made the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies in the United States. And I love learning from people with experience. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Jan McKinnon from The Work Lady. Jan McKinnon is a keynote speaker, comedian, master of ceremonies, and comedy writer. She has written for Jay Leno, The Tonight Show, the Jerry Springer Show, and for many, many, many others. For over 25 years, she's traveled the country sharing her unique and practical tips on how to use humor in business. She's been featured in the Huffington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post for her clean humor, and she's the author of 2 books, Finding the Funny Fast, How to Create Quick Humor to Connect with Clients, Coworkers, and Crowds, and Convention Comedian, Stories and Wisdoms from 2 decades of chicken dinners and comedy clubs. Jan, welcome to today's Entrepreneur MBA podcast.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me on.
So it's a great topic, and we're going to get really into it in depth in a little bit, but using humor in business to lead. And, you know, I tend to be a serious guy. And I certainly have my fun side. I have a lot of fun side, but you know, it really is amazing when you're in stressful situations, when you can use humor to break up the stress, isn't it?
Yeah, diffuse tension, kick off tough conversations, and we're not talking about being a comedian. That's not in business. Most people, aren't expecting that, and they don't want that. But just using a little bit of well-placed, appropriate humor to kind of lighten the situation. And most people, even if it isn't killer funny, they don't get mad at you. In humor and business, they're just happy that you're trying to lighten the situation. There's a lot of things you can do to lighten the situation. And I think humor is a really, really good tool that gets overlooked quite a bit.
Yeah, when I would say for the first 10 years that I was an entrepreneur, I was so unsure about running a business. I was so unsure about how to manage people. There was a lot of moving parts. And to have my personality come out after those 10 years, which is, I'm caring, I'm compassionate, I'm extremely busy, active, and like I'm the fun guy, right? But that didn't come out until I felt more comfortable in what I was doing for a living. And as far as skill set goes, do you think that sometimes has an impact in people not showing their personality?
I think people sometimes think if you joke around, you show a little bit of weakness. If you have a little bit of humor, you'll show like, oh, they're not serious. Or I think people try to be more serious to show, oh, I'm important. I'm the leader here. And really leaders, show your vulnerability. Have some fun. Humor is a great way to connect instantly with someone. You have that aha moment where you both get the humor. A great way, like we said, to diffuse tension, to show a little bit about yourself. Listen to the humor people use, and it'll tell you about them. If they make a snarky comment, you kind of know what frame of mind they're in. But you can find out all sorts of stuff just by listening to how people are joking around and using humor. I think sometimes leaders are worried to use it. It looks like they're letting their guard down or something, when in fact, it's really making you more open to people going, oh, I can go talk to this person. Oh, I found out something funny about his family today, or her family. So, it's good. It's a good skill, and it's not something you can just decide today. I want to do it. Even comedians, most comedians we naturally have a little bit of funny with us, but we know where to look. We've been practicing it and trying it and using it. So, it's sort of a muscle you gotta work on.
So let's say that you have a listener right now who says, I am a little stiff at work, right?
Mhm.
What would you suggest to them?
Well, I would suggest you want to take small steps to look for humor, and because comedians, we get on stage, we start it with a 3-minute open mic. I mean, you can't do an hour of jokes right off the bat. So start small and start looking. I guess easy ways to find humor are to walk in the room and look for look for the ironies, the disconnects. What are the things that don't make sense? And and after a while, if you start just kind of practicing that, they start popping out at you. You walk in and all of a sudden, boom, you see stuff. I catch this all the time when I walk in the room. I was doing an event one time where the speaker ahead of me was speaking on networking, and the title of his talk was "Never Eat Lunch Alone." Right on after him on the agenda, lunch on your own. All right, but people don't notice this stuff because they just you're busy. The meeting planners putting the agenda together. No one. So if you start looking around, after a while, it just pops out. I did another event one time. Though the giveaway at the table was at the registration table was solar powered flashlights. There's a little bit of disconnect in that. They work really well in the sun, and you start pointing stuff out, and that's a really easy way to kind of get people to kind of laugh. So if you have a big issue, sit down and kind of bring out some of the irony, some of the funny things, but start looking for them now. Start practicing your humor muscle.
You coach people how to lead?
I haven't done a lot of coaching. I haven't had time.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I just haven't. That's one avenue I haven't. I've been on so many plans.
No, I just wonder if anybody, that the reason I had asked that question is has anybody ever come to you and said, maybe based on your books, say, I feel like people don't know me. I feel like they think I'm too serious, or and they don't know the other side of me. How can I kind of get that out better? Which is a question we're asking kind of right now. But anybody ever come up to you like that?
No. I've had people. Everyone comes up and says, "I'm really funny. I should be a comedian."
Oh.
And then they realize that they don't do it because they're afraid of hecklers and they're afraid of bombing. All right.
Yeah.
But they don't do it. But when they realize how much work it is, even when I started out, a friend of mine jumped out and said, "You're doing stand up. I'm funnier than you." And then she saw me on stage and she came up later and said, "Well, small groups, I'm funnier." I'm like, "Yeah, try to get up in front of 500 people who don't have anything in common except they bought tickets."
Yeah.
But I haven't done any coaching. Something went through my head when you mentioned, showing your humor side. You can also show signs that you're funny. If you put, I don't know, fun cartoons up, or like a little cartoon on your desk, or something funny that just shows you have a sense of humor. You don't have to always be walking and joking around. Most comedians are very annoying, the ones that just always on joking anyway. So that's not what you're shooting for in business. You're just shooting to show people how that you have a funny side and a personal human side to yourself.
Yeah, and to lighten the issues that go on at work,
Kick
right?
off the tough conversation with something quick. Comedians, we address when you see a comedian on stage, walk on stage. We usually address if we're really overweight, or we're really tall, or we have a noticeable disability, or we look like a famous person. We look like Jerry Seinfeld or something. We address it immediately because people need to, otherwise they're not going to pay attention to what you say unless you address that. I have a friend of mine who's got muscular dystrophy. He's been on the Tonight Show 5 times. Doesn't have an act about it. He has one joke. He goes in, boom, says it, clears the air, lets everyone know. All right, I see that I have muscular dystrophy. So you're just looking for sort of an immediate, quick hit to diffuse the tension or kick off the tough conversation.
Now, I would imagine that in a large majority of the situations where you're going in front of a crowd, that you do a little, not extensive, but you do a little research as to what that crowd's going to be like. Like if you're talking in Chicago, you kind of know what's going on in Chicago,
Yeah.
right? If you're going to Des Moines, Iowa, you know what's going on in Des Moines, Iowa, just enough, right?
Yeah.
So I raised that point where what I had started to do 10 years into my career, it was based on the recommendation someone said to me. And what I would do is uh, I take one of my employees out to lunch so I could get to know them personally,
Hmm.
right? And I did that on a consistent basis. And what I found was when I did something like that, not only did their personalities come out, but my personality came out as well.
Yeah.
And it brought the barrier down of, oh, he owns the company versus, oh, he's just trying to make things happen. We're all trying to make things happen together.
Yeah. I like to have fun with some of the big wigs in the company sometimes, and I've had many compliments about, "Hey, you made me look human to my employees, so thank you for joking around." Yes, I do research. I try to find out about the group ahead of time. I try to find out about what they're going through, and it saved me on stage. When I was in front of, I don't know, a couple thousand nurses one time, and I had talked ahead of time to the client, and they said, well, nurses have a kind of a love-hate relationship with the doctors, and the doctors are always getting the pats on the back, and nurses aren't. And it helped me because during it was when cell phones had just kind of come out, and someone was cell phone videoing me, and I had to stop and say, hey, I tried to get her to stop nicely, non-verbally, kind of like looking right at it, like, no, no, no. Finally, I had to say, hey, would you not cell phone videotape me? And it stopped her, but it kind of got quiet. And I was rocking before that. And so but I threw it a line. I said, well, I don't know how you discipline a nurse, call her a doctor. The place went up. And because I did a little bit of research and it just popped in my head, oh yeah, and I went right back into my keynote. So yeah, it's a great way to do a little research, find out about people, dig a little deeper, find out, you know, and then you can use that humor.
Tell me about the books that you've written. Tell me some things that if our listeners, of course, haven't read them yet, right? If it tell
Well,
us
if your
something.
listeners are my mother, then they've read them. But otherwise,
There you go. There you go. Tell us some things in those books that you think our listeners, who are, all business owners, they're typically under 5 million yearly revenue. So they're smaller business owners,
uh-huh.
right? Tell us a little bit about, I think
Sure.
something that they would like to hear.
Sure. Well, the first book is Finding the Funny Fast: How to Create Quick Humor to Connect with Clients, Coworkers, and Crowds. And I basically tell you tips for finding humor. You know, uh, Pulling out the ironies. I mentioned getting the big elephant out on the table. Um, the, Quick humor tips to add it into your verbal and written communication. So, you want to have some fun. Say something counterintuitive, or find a way to change the title of a book, or change an acronym or something, so people will laugh and read your email or your memo or whatever. So those are some quick tips. I had a lot of people asking me. They come up to me after shows and say, gosh, how do you do 3 to 4 jokes a minute? You're so fast. How do you write this stuff? It was just easier to put it in a book.
Mm,
It's in an easy to read book too, because that would kind of defeat the purpose to have a
yeah.
book on fast humor to be a big tome.
Yeah.
And then the other book is Convention, Comedian Stories and Wisdom from 2 Decades of Chicken Dinners and Comedy Clubs. It's basically stories and what I learned from them. The mistakes, the good stuff, the bad stuff. What were some of the things that happened to me in this career so far? I mean, I've been doing this now over 25 years, but I wrote this at the 20-year mark. And well, how did I recover? What would I recommend in the future? And just some nice insights that can apply to anyone, not just a comedian.
You think that second book, that the things you think that a business person can extract things from that second book that apply to them in business?
Yes, yes. It's about having things not go as well. And then I learned, okay, just a fast example, I went from comedy clubs to the corporate speaking and corporate. And my introductions were horrible in corporate speaking at the beginning. They were written well, but I was getting, I'd have people read my jokes ahead of time. I'd have people, I'm backstage, and I had a woman up there reading and getting the laughs. I'm like, no. And I've had people, I go by the work lady because I do a lot of office humor, but I've had people call me the working girl, which is a whole other profession. Okay. I've had people read, one woman read the email that I sent to secure the engagement. She's talking about all the good things why we should hire me. I'm like, I'm standing right here. Are we going to take a vote on this? I've had people holding the mic down. What you just can't even imagine that one guy, started off the event with, okay, we got a really good comedian here. Shut the hell up. That's not the introduction you want. But what I realized is people in comedy clubs, people know how to, it's a comedian introducing you. They know how to do it. They know how to do it right. In corporate, they think they have to be funny. I mean, I actually had one woman get on stage and say, we got a comedian come up here. She better be funny or we're not paying her, because she's trying to be funny, and it didn't work. So I realized that people don't realize how to introduce a comedian. They think they have to be funny, or they want to read my stuff because they love my jokes so much. And so the easy things, the takeaway from that is pay attention to the easy things that you just kind of brush off and think, that's going to be easy. I hand someone a piece of paper, read it. And I had so many bad introductions until I put another piece of paper and said, here's some guidelines. Don't read my jokes ahead of time. I know you loved them. You saw them in the video. Don't say them. Don't read my bio instead of, 5 pages of stuff my mom likes to hear about. Read the introduction I gave you. Don't wing it. I had one guy get up there and he goes, he remembered I had written for The Tonight Show, Jay Leno, but he forgot it was The Tonight Show. He went up there and said, and now coming to the stage is a writer for Reader's Digest. Staring at me like, can't anyone do that? You just, so I really sat down and said, okay, I got to give people a quick tutorial on introducing a comedian. And you don't have to be funny. And if you want to do a joke, you got to do it before the intro. But if you're not used to doing jokes, please don't, because then that sets it up for, if it's a bad joke or they don't say it right, or if it's dirty or if it's inappropriate, it sets people up to think that's what I'm going to talk about, So comedians are interesting. When you say you're a comedian, people, and I'm now doing more humor keynotes on change in leadership than I am on than doing just straight stand-up comedy. But even the title comedian, people have these ideas in their head on what that should be. So what ideas do people have in their head about you or your company, and you don't think about it, and you just, think, oh, this will be fine. And it blows up in your face. It's the little things that you don't pay attention to,
It seems that the more experienced you are at something, the more you care deeply and learn about the details, isn't it? Right. You're talking about the intro, you're talking about how someone says it. You're taking all the variables out so that you can get the best result. And I think that's across the board, no matter what profession you're in, isn't it?
Yeah. And pay attention, really take a look at what are the things that could go wrong that you think, this is easy. Anyone knows how to do this. And they don't just presume that people know the small stuff, like introducing a comedian.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break just for an advertisement. But when we come back, Jan's going to tell us more about, how we can really bring out our personalities. And what I want to hear too, when we come back, is a little bit more how humor is different for the generations. Oh. So, yep. Just as a little bit about my company during the time of building my companies over the last 25 years plus, I learned really dealing with banks, how hard it was to deal with banks. And so man, they're a comedy in themselves. And
I was gonna say, can I throw
yeah,
some banking jokes in there?
yeah, really. There's a lot of material, and so that's when me and my business partner started Financing Solutions over 10 years ago, and I can't tell you how important it was during those 25 years for my businesses to have a line of credit, even just for unexpected emergencies. I always tried to make sure I had it in place, but it was rough. And so, and I have an incredible credit. I got great assets and stuff like that. But anyway, what our line of credit does at Financing Solutions is we made it easy to get in place. It's specifically made for small businesses. It's inexpensive when used, and it costs nothing to set up. And that's what really makes it a great cash backup plan. I personally believe that every entrepreneur should have a cash backup plan in place. And if you'd like to learn more about the line of credit program, please visit us at fscreditline.com. That's FS as in Financing Solutions, creditline.com, or give us a call at 862-207-4118. And if you apply today, we will even give you a $250 credit on file. And just remember, the time to set up the line of credit is when you don't need it, so that when you do need it, it's there ready to go. So let's go back to Jan and talk to her a little bit about the generational gap when it comes to
I'm
comedy.
filling out my line of credit right now. Come on.
There you go. Yeah, I have a specific one just for comedians.
Yeah. Don't say comedian. You'll never get a line of credit.
Well, that's right. But
You have a bad image of us.
It's only $1 for you guys. So that's how big the line of credit is. $1, yeah, you can afford that. So, going back to generations, what do you think the younger generations nowadays, do you think they appreciate humor more?
Well, interesting. And I have not worked at comedy clubs in a long time. But my comedy friends say that what is happening is a lot of these Instagram stars and people that have 1 million followers or whatever are getting on, and they think they're funny, or they do funny, wacky, whatever they do on their platform. And that's what the comedy club owners, because they can fill the rooms, are booking a lot. Some of them, not all of them.
Wow.
But it's hard. I mean, they get to the comedy club and it's a different animal. These Instagram stars or whatever, it's a little different when you get on stage and you're live, and you can't just do a 30-second wacky thing. You got to do a 45-minute funny thing. So I don't know if the younger generation is expecting smaller comedy bites, has less patience. I don't know, but the comedy, it seems it's changing a little bit that way, as far as what I see on people are laughing at, and I don't think a lot of times it's funny. But I'm older.
Yeah.
And I grew up with I do set up punch jokes. I loved Rodney Dangerfield, Jay Leno, all the Joan Rivers, set up punch. And a lot of this comedy is stories. And as long as you have a punchline, that's fine. But if they're just get up, there was a while where people were just getting up talking about their day and trying to be funny. And, that's a real skill to get up and be funny on the spot. And a lot of times it takes a lot of practice to be funny on the spot. So, I don't know if I've had younger people in my shows and they enjoy it. So I had a 12-year-old in my shows once. He loved it. He gave me a quote that he's in my marketing. And I did the show 2 years in a row, and he came back both years. He's great, Ricky. And so I think for younger people, the only thing that would for me, I think, was just the subjects. I joke about work, which they haven't had a lot of work experience, dating, dieting, some stuff like that. That's health. That's pretty generic. But like some of the subjects just won't resonate as funny because they haven't had to sit in a cubicle for 8 hours in a job you hate, and that sort of stuff.
I have a friend who he's a close friend, and I've known him for 25 years in my entrepreneur group. But when he sold his company, he ended up going to work for Google.
Nice.
And now he has 28 people reporting into him, and he's 56, and everyone who's in his group is in their 20s.
Oh.
And he is he's not a funny guy. He is is a guy who does funny things. And
on purpose or
no, no,
oh.
it's not on purpose. And then, he's one of those guys that you just shake your head at. You're like, what are you doing? Right. And the younger generation, like, they love him because they call him the old man. Cause he is, what's the word they use? It starts, not irresponsible. He is, he inappropriate. That's it. He's inappropriate. Right. And he'll say the things that the younger generation are like, what are you saying?
Okay, so two things working there. One, first, know your audience is certainly, if you're speaking to a group of nuns, you're not going to do the birth control material. But secondly, my biggest, there's not many rules in comedy. Pretty much the only rule is be funny. I mean, I don't care if you're dirty. I don't care if you're what it is. I'm not dirty. I'm clean comic, but I don't care. Just have a punchline. Don't use the F word gratuitously or anything. You have a punchline.
Yeah.
But what he's doing, and what really I tell most young comics, be you. Be you, because that's how you'll connect with people. Don't do the stuff that you think is funny. If you think knock jokes are funny, do those. I one time had a comedian come up to me. I was headlining a comedy club, and he came up at the beginning of the week and he said, "I want your job." And he had been told that I'm a clean act and to please tone it down. Well, all week he just got dirtier and dirtier and louder and more obnoxious the whole week. And finally, Saturday night, he comes up to me and he goes, "I don't get it." He goes, "I'm throwing everything I've got at you, and you're stepping on stage and following me with those stupid clean jokes about kids. How are you doing it?" And I said, "Stop trying to get me and make me look bad, and just do your own thing. And the club owner will see it, and they'll see you're funny and and you bring your own personality to it. And that's what people are paying for. Don't stop trying to be funnier than him or her, or be the room clown, and have all the attention on you. Just be you and do the stuff that you really, truly think is funny. And like your friend, he's just being him, and people love it, and
they do. And they do. They find him genuine.
Yeah, you're genuine.
And he's willing to laugh at himself. And he is still, even after they've told him something, he's still a little naive, So, I don't really have a specific example. You have to see the guy in action.
But you're sincere about it, and you're just—he
is sincere.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one right now. Right, whenever you go out for a drink with him, like, he's a heavy set guy, right? He's not really that good looking. He's short. And he thinks that every waitress or every girl there is interested in going out with him.
Maybe they are.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I really haven't seen it. So, so it's like, but it's just funny because once he gets that one drink under him, you already know that he's going to think that the waitress serving us is into him. And it's just, oh, you're telling me. Oh my God. And then when he starts hitting back, it's just like, oh my God, he's so inappropriate.
He might need a little different kind of training, not comedy. He probably needs some sensitivity. Oh, training.
No. Yeah. He's not the comedy that I think we're striving for, in it, right?
Yeah. Some people are funny without trying, and some people are, naturally funny. Robin Williams, naturally funny. And then a lot of us, like, I was never the class clown, but I thought it'd be fun to be a comedian. In fact, senior year of high school, they have those superlatives like best dressed, most athletic, I'm better than you, all that. And my friend Judy said, "Well, you say funny things, but you're not like the loud class clown." But she put me as funniest, so I had 2 votes, me and Judy. But at our class reunion, when I said I was a comedian, and I guess it was like 10 or 20 years, she's like, "Oh, that's perfect,"
And what was she? It works in obituaries?
No, I don't know. I don't know what she does. I can't remember. She's from Florida.
Just the opposite. Do you think? What about when the like, going back to that, my friend that I was talking about, just brought up a point that I was thinking of, and that is inappropriateness, where you're trying to make a joke, and on a consistent basis, and it's not going over well. I mean,
yeah, sex, drugs, rock and roll, probably politics, stay away from.
yeah,
You just if you want to be really like for me, I mean, there are comedians obviously who make a great living at those topics, but they're very good at it. They're
yeah.
very.
What would rock and roll be bad at? I mean, what could you talk about?
Maybe I can stop just throwing rock and roll in there.
You just threw the rock and roll in it. Okay.
So drugs, I guess, is what you equate with rock and roll.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm like, rock and roll. I'm like, okay, so Rolling Stones versus, I don't know, Two Door Cinema Club. It's like, okay.
You can talk about rock and roll. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Just keep out the crazy stories. If you want, or not, but understand your audience, I guess, would be a big part of that. Because, at work, it's sex, drugs, and politics probably are not the thing to be even joking about because they're just so heated. And the sex part, people are probably could be taken the wrong way,
Yeah.
Also, don't do the humor if you're really mad about the situation. Tense is good. If it's tense, you're just trying to break tension. But if people are hostile and hate you, don't use humor because it even if you're trying to be funny, it does not come out that way. Look, just common sense, I think,
I guess at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is be yourself. You might make a mistake, so don't be scared. Just go out there, be yourself over a period. Pay attention to how people are reacting. If they're not reacting right, then you need to kind of tone it down a little bit. I also find too, going back to your books, that if you read a book versus like, I could take a look at your book, read the title, read the back cover, and say, oh, okay, I get what she's talking about. I'll implement it at work, right? But there's something about spending 13 hours, 10 hours, 5 hours with a book, and it becomes a part of you for the rest of your life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think reading one of your books, it could lighten up your approach just because you've now spent some time reading about it, thinking about it, stays with you for
a little bit, pick up some of the tips,
and
just really, go in and take one tip. Like I said, comedians start with 3 minutes of material. Just take one thing and just say, okay, this week, let me just start looking around to see because we tend to go in the same door to our office, drive the same route to the office, go a different route, or walk in and start really looking, and the disconnects and the ironies and the weird stuff just start after a while just popping out when you walk into a room. And and that's where you get. Then when you need to use it, you need to use some humor. You'll know where to look and what to look for.
Well, good there. Well, let's leave it there because I think that's a good last statement. What you're saying. I'd like to thank you very much, Jan, for coming on to today's podcast. We were speaking with Jan McKinnon from The Work Lady. If you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend and also subscribe in your favorite podcasting app. And also, please give us a review. We've had so many great reviews. I'm really happy about them, and they really help get the word out about the Entrepreneur MBA podcast. The podcast has become very popular. It's listened to by thousands of people. I look at the downloads all the time. I'm shocked. Yeah. And if you're also looking for a line of credit for your business, you can call us at 862-207-4118 or visit our website at fscreditline.com. Jan, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Since nobody can spell McInnis without putting a G in it, because it doesn't have a G, theworklady.com. Theworklady.com.
Great. And the last name is McInnis,
correct,
so that everyone does know how to spell it.
Like this.
And if our listeners are interested in getting any new business ideas, I tweet daily about lessons for business owners at SHALASNIK, which is my last name, my first initial last name, S. Halasnik. And all of you, I want to thank you for listening. And let's remember, work doesn't always need to be so super serious. You can bring out your personality, let the people see who you are. That's going to help you to lead better. And listen, life is too short, right? Let's just have some fun. Let's have some fun. Yeah. So everybody, have a great day. Try to get outside, take good care of yourself. You deserve it. And it helps you at work too. So we'll see you in the next the Entrepreneur MBA podcast.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yep.